Hey folks, it's now the day after the most recent video that I actually uploaded, where I explained why I completely restarted training the visual model of my combined system here for learning how to play DRL from scratch. The reason was that I recognized, or I became pretty convinced, based on my slow learning of how AI might work, that I was losing a lot of information, and that this was why we were hitting certain barriers, like this weird inability to decide when it was necessary to hit the spacebar, and that I had seen burn-in of the CNN focusing in on tutorial messages that were going to be completely useless. So that means we've now restarted training a CNN, and I have to now decide what the right time is to freeze that CNN and hook up the decision maker. And the way to decide this, I think, is just to see when it plateaus. So I've started to look at when it plateaus, and I've realized it's already plateauing inside of a day. Check this out. What I've done here is I have listed the replay directory. This is what I always do, right? Like I check how many times in the last day have I hit level 2, and I see that by basically looking at this thing right here. And I can also see if it hit level 3 and if it hit level 26, which is like the secret one, or if it hit level 4. And I can see here, right, that with the new model training from scratch, with the new way to configure the visual system, even from 0 to 1000, I mentioned this before, the first time it hit level 2 was actually the 89th attempt. So it learned incredibly quickly. And this really is training from a blank slate. Yeah. And altogether, I summarized it up here. In the first 1000, it hit level 2 40 times. It hit level 3 4 times, and it hit the secret level 2 times. So it actually got through level 2 already in the first 1000 attempts. In the second 1000 attempts, I put this in a separate file here. In the second 1000 attempts, it hit level 2 109 times, right? So that's more than twice as often. Of course, it's still learning. You would expect it to learn. And it got to the next level, again, a combined total of 6 times. So not much change there. Then in the following 2000 tries, it doubled about again. So it hit level 2 172 times. It hit level 3 and the secret level altogether 12 times. And it even touched level 4 once. I go fast forward to 3000. So this is from run 3000 to 4000. All of this is in one day. Compare this to the fact that on the first attempt with the CNN, with what I think now I'm very convinced was the bad way to configure the vision system, we plateaued basically at reaching level 2 about 200 times in a day. This is, and that was after like a week. This is the first day. We're still on the first 24 hours, basically, just cresting them. So this was, sorry. This was the first 24 hours. Now we're getting into the second 24 hours. And here we have hit level 2 258 times, level 3 10 times, level 4 26 times. Level 26, the secret level, 8 times. And then level 4 once, and we didn't get past this. But now things get interesting. This was early on the second day, and we already hit 25% basically completion rate with just the CNN. How does it look later? Now we've skipped from we've skipped 1000, and we're looking at 5000, and actually the result is no better. We have completed level 1 244 times. We've completed level 2 altogether. We've completed level 2 13 times, diving once into level 3, once into level 26. This is not better. In fact, it's slightly worse. Now, when it continued, it got slightly better again, went back to above 25%, but not by a lot. Like, it's not actually as good as this one was. This one was better. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to find the checkpoint that captures what the state of the visual cortex was here, because my guess has to be that the longer it hangs out after it basically learns what it's doing and plateaus, the more likely I am to burn in reward hacking patterns that are not going to help, that are not actually going to help you be more effective. And I assume that the model has been changing slowly enough that it would not confuse the memory system if the rate at which it's changing shouldn't be confusing to a memory system anymore. So now the question is, which one of these should I choose? So here I have the, the list of models, And I am looking for the model from this 3000 to 4000 run, which ended like that bracket ends at 2 in the afternoon on the 4th. So yesterday, at 2 in the afternoon yesterday. And so now what I'm looking for is I'm looking for where approximately was 2 in the afternoon yesterday in my checkpoints. And I have a very nice candidate here, right here. That is what this model state was at 2 in the afternoon yesterday. So what I'm going to do is I am going to configure, I'm going to start training the LSTM. I'm going to use this model as the version as the visual cortex. And then I'm going to train the LSTM with a frozen visual cortex with this model frozen until the LSTM plateaus. And when the LSTM plateaus with the frozen model, then I will unfreeze this part of the model again so that the vision system and the decision maker can evolve together. And it would anticipate, I would hope, that at that point, the vision system will change slowly enough because it's already also fairly mature so that the decision maker doesn't disintegrate and then destroy the vision system, which is what happened to me once in the past. So that's how it's going to go forward. That's the plan. And I really hope that this time I'll stick to the plan, because so far every time, like when I look at it a couple days later, I realize something new and I want to try something different. But I really now think this is probably the best. And then once we get, once we get models that stagnate, that plateau, I will look into tweaking the incentive structure again and try to figure out, if there's anything that is causing reward hacking or other issues that I need to fix. So I'll follow with that update. There's no run replay video with like heat maps today because there's no point. I don't have time. I don't have time to edit it. So it's just this, just a summary, and I will keep you posted on the progress. Cheers. Hi guys, welcome back. So it has been, it's now Friday evening, and it has been a while since the last clip that I recorded, because I also paused the training for a while because I had to find time to fix some issues. The biggest issue that I had to fix is that actually the agents got better beyond a certain point, and they started to be able to actually level up the character. So it's one thing to go down a level in the dungeon, it's the other thing is to actually level up and get to level 2, get to level 3, etc. Turns out there was some issues. There were some scenarios where my training environment never actually got the chance to interact. So my agent actually never even got the chance to select a next level. And then I got past that, and then I had to implement some code that I can show you here that actually navigates the skill tree. So it basically, there's like some code here now that basically catches and detects that there's a level up screen, and then finds the next trait and eventually tries to guide this agent to be a very good build with the shotgun. That's still challenging for an LSTM or for any agent, because he has to learn that the shotgun is good, even though he has to reload it all the time. But I trust that eventually he'll figure it out. The only alternative is to stick with a pistol build. And pistol build is okay. It's actually really kind of easy, but I don't know, it's no fun. I wanna put him at least through this little bit of challenge. And the problem here is that this code was hard to implement. Like, I only get to work in this like mornings and evenings, right? I don't really do this during the day. The only thing I do during the day is I sometimes look at the numbers. I occasionally make a backup of something. That's it. Which means that if something takes debugging, even if I do it with an AI session, I still work on it basically in the morning or at night. And that means that this just takes time and I have to iterate. In this particular case, it took a while to get to an implementation that works, but I can show you if I look at from a recent backup. Let's see, what is today? This is. From a recent backup here, I can show you what the problem was. So this was the problem. Here was a version of the level up that just didn't work. It just didn't work. It didn't work. It sat there for a very, very long time. It definitely didn't level up. At the end though, I don't know where we are now. Hello. Yeah. At the end though, we got to a level up implementation that works. It actually picks the screen it's supposed to pick, or it picks the trait it's supposed to pick, and levels up the character for him, so he doesn't have to learn how to do that himself. And so we're off to the races again. The other thing that happened is I upgraded this laptop. It had It had only 8 gigabytes of RAM, which makes letting this thing run while developing other projects very difficult. And so I finally, this is not product placement, but I finally bought some RAM, 32 gigabytes, stuck it in there, and now I can do other work at the same time. Plus, I can make this other change to the engine, which is very important now. Let me find it here. So I bumped up the amount of steps that the model can learn from at a given time in 2 ways. One is that I now look at a grand total of 4,000 steps, which is enough to fail multiple times to get past level 2 or 3, and also learn from a longer sequence of events of what's coming in the future, and also especially bumping up the batch size, which is important because it means that in one evaluation of like choices and consequences and points given and lost, it's now looking at a sliding window of 1,000 turns, which is enough. Again, that's enough to put you at level 3. So previously it only had 256 turns, which is mostly still keeps you in level 1, maybe mid-level 2. And you basically can't piece together a sequence of events that leads you past maybe dying, early in level 3 or even in level 2. You now have the ability to evaluate and ponder what happened over the course of a long enough sequence that you may have actually died multiple times or gotten, into deeper dungeon levels, or crossed multiple levels. And that's very important because it's the only way that this model has any chance of actually developing a strategy for how to build its sort of momentum across levels. Like if I wanted to have any chance of having a strategy for what kind of stuff to take out of its inventory or what kind of stuff to keep or pick up, this is the only way to do it. Previously, you couldn't do this at all. But still, the fact that I started getting these weird hangs where the laptop, where I would come in the morning and it would just like it stopped at like 2 in the morning. And it turned out the reason is that it was getting to a point where the character was leveling up for the first time. And that means that, obviously there's stuff to debug, but it also means that the model had been progressing. I'll show you really quickly how this went again, because I still think it's very cool, right? I mean, we had at the CNN stage, I think we plateaued between 3,000 and 4,000 attempts with a completion rate of level 1 of altogether, 27-ish percent, 28%. And that means that 28% of the time we got past level 1, and then a couple of times we got past level 2, right? Then with the LSTM with the CNN frozen, we actually plateaued already between 2 and 3,000 and at a very low rate. And I was like, what's going to happen? I was a little bit nervous when I unfroze the CNN, but now this is new for you. I think I haven't shown you this yet. It turns out that as soon as I unfroze the CNN so that the decision maker could pass information back to visual cortex, it actually improved immediately. It got past 30%. Then it got past 35%. Then it got very well past 40% and started reaching level 2 and the secret level, the level 3 and the secret level much more often. Then it started to get past 45%. It got well past 50% and started reaching the secret level more often. Also started reaching level 4 more often. And this is where I started running into hangs and crashes and weirdness because I got stuck on the leveling up. And I eventually started to fix the leveling up. And now we start to get more completions of level 4. The most recent run was at a 66% basically completion rate, like 659 out of 1,000 runs got past the end of level 1. 4 of them got past into level 4, and quite a few of them reached level 2 of the player's experience level. So we're getting there. Now, with the change I just made to the environment, to the training setup, I've started a new run. So basically, not run, but like I've started counting afresh, right? So if I look at my environment over here, what has happened is that, here you go. Doomguy is like chugging along. He's doing fine. He's, busting his way through the levels. Oh, I finally removed a warden, a thing called a stairs warden. So I had put in this code that basically locked him whenever he stepped on the stairs. And then he basically had to mash buttons until he hit the spacebar. And while he was mashing buttons, he lost a bunch of points. And when he hit the spacebar, he got a bunch of points back, and he got a bunch of extra points. And as you remember, this was like a big theme because I was really pissed off that even after days of this, it took him sometimes thousands, tens of thousands of tries to finally hit the spacebar. And I knew that, he had been counter incentivized on the spacebar. He had burned in something like don't use the spacebar. And this is why this time around, I chose models with very little chance to have burn-in. This is why I chose very young models that plateaued early and then immediately shifted to the next training to try to prevent this from this burn-in. And now I'm really looking for him to get on stairs on his own. And it turns out he's doing this reasonably well. Ooh, there he leveled up. Look at that. He just leveled up. So I'm now determined to let him find it on his own. So what's probably going to happen is the completion rate of level 1 is going to drop from 66% back to, 40-something% for a while. But I now let him really figure out on his own when he stepped on the stairs. There was a scenario where the Doomguy gets kind of blown around the map. Like he might get, shot by a shotgun, or he might blow up a barrel, something stupid like this. And he's flying across the map. And while that's happening, frames are being rendered. And it looks to my engine like the stairs are appearing at different locations. And the reason for that is because the player's actual coordinates aren't updated until the end of that animation. That's my guess. That's the best guess I can come up with. And so what I have is I left a bunch of stairs magnets all over the map. And that caused a lot of confusion. What this resulted in is that I had this code that would lock him into place, but the stairs were actually right next to him. And then I was forcing him to basically mash buttons until he hit the spacebar. But I realized that he actually never spent more than like 10 or 20 tries. I thought, let's remove that lock, right? And let's just let him find the stairs on his own. And actually what I'm seeing, even if you look through this, right? Almost every time when it's hallucinated, he might mash a lot of buttons. He's like, I know I'm not on the stairs, dude. What the fuck are you doing? But otherwise, like after 0, otherwise, if he was actually on the stairs, it was very frequent, here 100 some odd times, that he literally didn't mash buttons at all. He got on the stairs and he pushed the button. So in other words, we're now at a point where having this warden code in place was really doing way more harm than good, because it's creating a completely random situation in the middle of the game from the agent's perspective. So the downside to this is he's probably going to decrease his completion percentage for a while, because without the warden, I do imagine that there's going to be the occasional time where he runs out of turns, because he only gets to lose points for like 1,000 turns before I kill him, and he has to start over. But, I think it'll be worth it. I think he'll figure it out, and I'll keep you guys posted. All right, so now it's Sunday evening. Man, do I look crazy or something? It's not. It's been a normal weekend. All right, spent some time outside. Went to a nice beer garden by a lake with the family, and so on and so forth. I know that, like, in a way, when you see this log, it's like, it's day 3, it's day 5, and there's this guy like growing, getting a beard sitting in his room. Like, it looks crazy, right? But don't worry, perfectly normal weekend, just relaxed. And keeping an eye on this little experiment. So I'm just going to get straight into it. We have started to run this with 2 workers instead of 1. So upgrade to my computer, which basically took the RAM from 8 gigs to 32, allows us to run 2 processes to train at the same time, which is not a bad idea either, because it increases the variance. Like it actually changes quite significantly how the model processes the information, because instead of processing one linear progression where, for example, it sees 2,000 steps of level 1, what you have is you have two bots, 2 agents that are running through the Doomgate, and they get desynchronized. So now when it is processing steps, the actual learning process is processing some information from level 1 and some information from level 2 or 3 at the same time, which is good. It allows the model to also figure out more generic patterns and also piece together perhaps some events you might do earlier that in level 1 that might affect you in level 2. Another thing that I might have mentioned is that we've removed this thing called the stairs warden. And the worry was that when I do this, the amount of completion would drop. Like maybe he hasn't figured out how to use the stairs. So let's look at how that went. All right. So we had a beginning phase where I was running on when I started running on 2 CPUs with the upgraded machine. And we can see that actually he completed level 1 still now 71 altogether 71% of the time. Yeah, so his completion actually jumped quite a bit with the training upgrade. However, he's not, and keep in mind, like compared to before, this was 659, right? This was the LSTM training with before the upgrade. This is after the upgrade with the stairs warden removed. So this has gone quite well, but as you can also see, there I cut it off. As you can see, it kind of plateaued quickly. We basically have 710 here. We have 710-ish here. So not a lot of difference. So I basically said, okay, that's enough training with a high coefficient. We're now going to train with a lower coefficient. That basically means you get to be more methodical. The model gets to learn to be more methodical. That went towards 720, 730 completions, but again, it kind of plateaued. I saw that the first 1,000 and the second 1,000 didn't do much better, and the thing that worries me is I don't see him descending into level 4, and I'm kind of worried that he has associated getting to level 4 perhaps with dying. And so I'm worried that he gets to level 3 or the secret level 26, and he just refuses to continue. So the next step that I'm starting now is I've actually changed the reward structure quite a bit. So we had a basic penalty per turn of 0.01 point. That basically just means if you're wasting time, you lose points, and you lose them at a trickle rate, like 1 point for every 100 wasted turns. And in order to try to get past this stalling, which I assume is happening because he actually now has 2,000 turns to try to figure out what to do. And 2,000 turns should get you well into level 4, into level 5. And that's if you're not earning points. This is 2,000. This basically means if he's stalling, he has spent 2,000, unless he's gotten himself shot, he has spent 2,000 turns bumming around. So this is what we're trying to fix now. And hoping that, by doing that, we will see him start to actually, instead, rather than, this discouraging him completely and then failing, it actually is meant to kick him into gear a little bit. So here we see, the usual screen of, here we see the screen of death, as it were, the model training. And I can show you here, I just did this particular change, which is why there's not a lot of data yet. So that's why I can show you here only a few hundred runs. I can see that he is, even with this increased difficulty and with this new setup, he's making it to level 2. I'm not seeing him very often hitting level 3. We still see that he hits level 3 here. Obviously, his efficiency is going to hover lower than it did before because he's getting this point deduction. But a thing that I'm seeing is I'm not seeing him spend a ton of steps. So I actually suspect that he kind of got the message that he doesn't dawdle. He's just not that good at fighting yet. So one more thing I want to do is I want to show you the latest attention GUI. This is a little thing that now the changes, it looks like an oil slick. The reason it looks like an oil slick, it'll look like an oil slick, is because I'm painting different layers of attention in different colors. And I basically decided that I want to see where this model is paying attention to a single pixel, right? Where is this model paying attention to larger patterns? And so we have different layers for different sort of size things that the model detects and focuses on. And the individual pixels are blue. Some larger patterns up to a size of like 9 by 9, characters basically, or that can be captured by 9 by 9 characters, are, I think, green. And then things that are larger, like, noticing an entire room or the borders of a room or something like that, are still denoted in red, yellow. So let's have a look. Let's see if his vision has evolved. Let's see if he's finding the right things to pay attention to. So Here we go. So this is what this now looks like. Okay, so this is what I was describing, right? So what we see is we see areas around individual characters. The alignment is still not going to be entirely perfect because we're taking, yeah, probably doing a little bit of guessing. But he's focusing on this area. He's noticing that there's something up with this text. He's very heavily focusing both on higher order recognition. He's, you know, and in detail, he's focusing over here. He knows he needs to go over here. He's understanding that, you know, he's sort of in this area. I'm not exactly sure what's going on here. I mean, I don't get, he doesn't speak English, right? It's just, I can only see what he's paying attention to. He's ignoring this tree completely, so he's figured out that that doesn't matter. Let's see what happens. Okay, so we can see his focus shifting around here. You know, he's basically searching for a way through. He found this door. So that is actually, by the way, let me go back. Okay, so he vetted pretty straight for this door, and this door is blue, although a lot of other stuff is blue, which just means he kind of recognizes it. It doesn't mean that he thinks it's important. It just means that it thinks that, you know, that it knows what that is. Like, it has seen that before. It can associate. It thinks it can predict what will happen if it steps there, and it could be that what will happen if it steps there is nothing, like, or you just lose a little bit of a point because you're not making progress. So he's got that. Okay, you can also see his attention immediately shifts. So he paints this room. He basically says, aha, look, I found the room, perfect. Doesn't grab the medkit. Okay, did he shoot? Did I shoot? I don't know. He did something there. That's interesting. Did he just take a medkit? Okay, let's go back. What did he actually do here? Okay, so this thing shot into existence. There's a high spike in this area. So and this is, by the way, the yellow is the vague area, right? So I just know that there's a high order of attention here. There's also blue around the guy. This has also lit up a little bit more, see? So he's aware that this is important, right? He's also noticed that this is meaningful. This probably means that he got some points. And he is aware that something's going on. That's good. So what happens is he has a 74% hit chance, but he probably doesn't quite get that. And he immediately shot. The missile hits the former sergeant. Okay, so he opened the door. He saw him. He shot him. I wasn't sure who was shooting who. That's pretty good. He got shot, I think, with a shotgun, because that's a former sergeant. He's now almost dead. And he got knocked back. Yeah. He's searching. He still has this guy painted. Now I'm curious. Is he doing this on purpose? Okay, he got shot again because he walked back there. It seemed like he was ducking behind the door. He's not quite smart enough to let this guy come to him. When you're up against someone with a shotgun and you start with a pistol, you hide right here. You hide here. You let this guy come into the doorway, and then you shoot him, because at that point he would only punch you, and he wouldn't do as much damage, but you can still shoot at him. Now, interesting. So he has 70% health. He goes to the med pack. This could have been, yeah, he used the med pack. Okay, so this brung noise really was him using the med pack. So that's interesting. He got shot a couple of times, and then he used a med kit. It's a little bit, it's not exactly long-term thinking, but it's a reasonable thing to do when you don't really know what you're doing yet. Now he's going in aim mode. He's gone into aim mode. But then he came back out of it. He didn't really... Dude, you're killing me. Okay, there. All right, now, so his focus is shifting. He got that guy out of the way, and immediately he gets that. You know, his focus shifts more to over here. Does that change? I mean, somehow the screen changed. Okay, another thing, this is important. This is very important. I love seeing this. You can see that all of these H symbols are painted in blue. Oh, by the way, one big thing. Did you notice there's no graphics aside from this that's ASCII? That's actually, I did that on purpose. I removed the graphical tiling, even though I loved it. I thought it was so neat. Because obviously on black and white, with the ASCII's characters on a black background, I can see much more easily what we're paying attention to here. That's very important. Okay. So, yeah, so we're walking through. This is now lighting up like crazy. So he's gotten the fact that this is important. He's noticing, I mean, this is all lighting up. So I think he's fully aware of this guy. Let's see. Yeah, he's fully aware of this. He's probably also paying attention to it. Look, he's actually, it says out of vision. That's interesting because it means that somehow, in some way, he's he may be even in some menu, because out of vision usually means that, you know, you're hovering over something that you can't see. But now you can see him. This is lighting up in a different color. This area is way bright, and he's maybe keeping up an eye over here to see if this door opens, although it doesn't matter when you can see the enemies. But again, very good that these are lighting up in blue. Very good that he recognizes the importance here. Boom. Reloads the pistol. He's not exactly shooting. All right, there you go. Did he just bump into him? Okay, now this is the thing. This is really the one thing I would want the LS team. Oh, by the way, he sees the two humans are together now. That's very important. This is lit up like crazy. It would be crucially important for this model, like the whole thing I want him to see, to learn eventually. Like, this will blow his mind, right? Is noticing that grabbing the shotgun is better as long as you learn to hide and reload it between every shot. If you don't learn how to do that, then you're in trouble. I may have to go back to just using pistols. But by the way, these agents are really, this is now playing a much harder game than the agent that was reaching 70% before, right? Because the agent that was reaching 70% before, actually, wait. No, the CNN was playing with pistols and was using a skill tree that gave it a very powerful pistol. As soon as I switched to the LSTM, I changed it to use a skill tree that uses a shotgun, because that skill tree can take you all the way through the end of the game once you're good, but it has that learning curve for the shotgun, which is why the LSTM at first, with the frozen CNN, did worse, right? But then when we unfroze the CMN, we let them learn together, the LSTM eventually got to like 60% completion, so it's doing better. But I really want to understand if he picks up the shotgun. Okay, he dodged. Okay, good. Okay, so he's killed everybody on the level, right? That's fine. Everyone's dead. And by the way, the fact that I can just thumb through this is pretty good. Like, we're, 139 turns. That means he's not mashing buttons. He's not playing around in menus. Also, right now, he's not in a menu. Okay, the stairs just came here. That lit up. But I'm a little bit annoyed he did not realize that he should pick up the shotgun. That's really going to be... Man, it's going to blow his mind. Okay. Is he going to go open that door? Oh, what is he doing? Okay, now we get a little bit of randomness. I'm going to go fast forward a bit. Okay. Come on, just head for the stairs, dude. There might be a little bit of burn in here. Like, the fact that this is still lit up is weird. It shouldn't be, right? It should be this. This should be what we should see lit up, and we're not. But there you go. Come on. And now we see this, there's no stairs warden now, so let's see how much button mashing he does. It shouldn't be too bad. I'm not actually seeing too much trouble getting to the next level, but of course he's still using a pistol. Okay, and now here we have a bunch of guys, and they're going to kill him because we're now 4 turns away from the end. I'm not going to make you listen to the screaming there. So that's it. That's where we are. I hope you like the new GUI. I think this is pretty cool. Yeah, we see what lights up. We see what he recognizes as individual characters and what's important. And we see that he's not good at this. He's not good at this. And now I have to wait. I just have to wait. Like, at this point, I think we have a much better start than last time. The fact that I'm not having to lock him to the stairs for 10,000 steps like we did for a while, that is much better. So I anticipate that we can do something with this. But now I just have to let it run again for a few weeks and see if it works out or if it develops any weird maladies and issues. And then if that happens, I have to figure out how to tweak the rewards again and start it from earlier on. And I have all these nice snapshot backups now. Like, I basically have backup directories. This is why in this temp directory, I have these differently named subdirectories with these replays where I keep these numbers, because that way, if I see that something has really gone off the rails, I can just go back to an earlier snapshot. I can see, okay, here it looked pretty good or whatever. In this case, that's not true, but yeah, it looked pretty good. And I can say, okay, when was that? That was, on May 7th at around 11 in the morning. And then I can go and I can actually go and find that backup and find that model and bring it back and say, okay, let's train from here with a slightly different setup. So that's how this is going to work. Again, I hope you find it interesting. Have a nice day.